We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
Hey, it's Boysen. Today's podcast is something different. How do we face what's happening in the world? So from September 24th to 29th, Hurricane Helene carved a path of destruction through the southeast from the Gulf of Mexico through the Carolinas and Virginia, with the most severe damage being caused in the western part of North Carolina in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains and country in Asheville and beyond. Asheville has been home to a vibrant community of the Mankind Project, part of our Greater Carolinas area. And many of the men there and families there were directly affected by Helene. Today, I'm having a couple of different conversations with men on the ground from our community. First, I'll speak with Darryl Hansome. Darryl's a former chairman of the board for the Mankind Project USA. And I'll be speaking with him about his experience of community connection and support, helping others right outside of Asheville. And then I'll speak with Dr. Zachari Cahn, who is also an Asheville community member who's been assisting with disaster recovery efforts and who has launched a campaign to get money and supplies to those most in need on the ground. I'm also recording this and very aware right after Hurricane Milton carved across Florida. For me, all that's happening highlights just how interdependent we are and how urgent it is that we learn together to care for each other in times of crisis and pain. I'll come back to this a couple of times, but I'm reflecting on some of Gabor Mate's work. So I'll read a quote from The Myth of Normal: Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. Mate says, disconnection in all its guises, alienation, loneliness, loss of meaning, and dislocation, is becoming our culture's most plentiful product. No wonder we are more addicted, chronically ill, and mentally disordered than ever before, enfeebled as we are by such a malnourishment of mind, body, and soul. So as I read about and learn from directly what's happening in Asheville and in the Southeast and in Florida right now, I'm continuing to learn, as I think we all are, that there is a profound strength and resilience in human community when we come together. And with that focus on compassion and support, welcome to the Mankind Podcast. This is Boysen Hodgson with the Mankind Podcast. I'm with Darryl Hansome, who is a past chair of the Mankind Project USA and a member of the Asheville community in Western North Carolina. What town is it? What town are you in?
I'm in Leicester, which is just outside the city limits of Asheville.
Just outside the city limits of Asheville. And I started with a question for Darryl and I'll just reprise it again. So, Darryl, how are you holding up in Asheville?
First, Boysen, thank you for taking the time to even ask that question, be concerned about what's happening here. So, I'm hanging in there, and the people here, we're adapting to the crisis that's happened here. It's a different way of living that we hadn't expected, and many of us had never possibly done before. There are things that are being done that we haven't done before. Living without electricity, without power to our homes, and for most of us, that's essential. And also living without water, having to figure out how to get water to drink, water to bathe in, for your body, water to wash any dishes. Yeah. And for those with many of us with pets, water for your pets too, which is essential. They don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having and water to also one thing water to for sanitary to flush toilets because many of us don't have outhouses and uh
S-
and
y-
if you're in an area that had an outhouse, it may not be standing any longer.
Yes. So I have known you for as long as I've known you as a man who has been deeply embedded in helping and supporting people in community. So how has that shifted since Hurricane Helene? What is your day to day like now?
Well, right now, and for me, that's my service is paying it forward for what's been done for me in the past. And right now, my day can be taking a neighbor out to a store to try to get groceries. Um, our stores here are just now letting us use uh, our plastic, our credit cards and bank cards. We had we needed money, we needed cash before a few days ago to buy anything, including gasoline for your vehicles. But running a neighbor to a store or to a drugstore to get essential medication. Also to I just the other day took a friend, an 80-year-old woman, to get a rental car. Uh, and she was in an area, Swananoa, they got hit really bad with
Yeah.
the devastation. And I had to take her down toward the airport to get a rental uh, for her independence so that she could go out and get her food and water when she needed to. She's living in a 4-story apartment building on the 4th floor that didn't have power until 2 or 3 days ago, as though she
Wow.
was doing the steps. Um, I also earlier this week helped a friend of mine who with a heart condition. I helped him get 12 5-gallon buckets of water from a creek, which involves getting to the creek, going down the bank, almost getting in the water, and filling these buckets as much as you can fill them, and then carrying them back up the creek and getting them uh, into a vehicle or over to the house. And this is the essential of toilet flush water that
Yeah.
we all need for the sanitary efforts.
Yeah. I so I'm in Springfield, Massachusetts, right? I don't know how many hundreds of miles or 1,000 miles away. That's probably 1,000 miles away, 1,200 miles away, something like that. I was at the our local animal shelter yesterday, and there are pets from the Carolinas in
Hmm.
the animal shelter here in Springfield, Massachusetts. So just that how vastly different things are so fast. So tell me, are there things that you're seeing just in terms of the way the community has responded in Asheville, the greater community? I've been hearing stories, but tell me what it's been like to be part of the community down there in the aftermath of Helene.
It's thank you for asking that, Boyce, and it's really uplifting. Um, People are going out of their way to assist other people, to make sure that people have food, um, to make sure that needs are met for people. Um, Different organizations, whether they're religious or community minded, uh, and then actually people coming in from out of area, and they're coming in from everywhere. They were coming up from Florida before Hurricane uh, Milton hit. But people, I've seen vehicles from Colorado, from Pennsylvania, from many of the not only surround the adjacent states, but states from quite a distance away, Tennessee especially, which is an adjacent state. But they're we are really supporting each other. There are in parking lots, people are setting up food. They're cooking food and giving people hot meals. Sometimes for, their first hot meal in 2 weeks, um, which is really uh, uplifting to people. And, uh, and there's a concern about our homeless population here because these people were living on the streets before this, and where have they gone? Where are they? Um, uh, are they fatalities in this situation? We're not sure,
Yeah.
but but yeah, everyone's helping everyone else out, and it's bringing out the better side in people,
Thank you.
and the yeah, and our brothers are MKP brothers are especially mindful and doing that for their neighbors and friends.
I'm going to be talking to another warrior brother in the area, Zachari Cahn, a little bit later today, and I'll just recommend on the Mankind Project USA webpage, mkpusa.org/Helene response, we have a write up from the current chair of MKP with a short video there and a link to Zachari Cahn is set up a GoFundMe page that is collecting donations that he is using. And you kind of spoke to it just then, Darryl. Direct support for people who are most desperately in need um, of toiletries, of essentials, of cash to be able to go to the grocery store, of things that they will need. So long term, so we're just in the second week aftermath. This is going to be a long-term investment. What do you think is going to be needed 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now so that we don't forget what we need to be responsible for our neighbors?
Yes, and that's a very difficult question to answer. Many of us are, I suspect, still in a state of shock. Um, some suffering from PTSD as a result of this. And what we do need is for everyone to remember that this isn't over. Um, I don't have water at my house, and I'm being told that it's going to take weeks, maybe months, to have water, get water back. And so we need for uh, the community to keep us in mind, to not forget, because this isn't, once the news reels stop showing photos and videos of what's happening here, what has happened, the devastation, it's still here. And people will be needing, people may need, they may need shelter. People, and we're coming into the winter months now, and the temperature's already changing. People may need clothing. Uh, they may need money. So they may need food, and they may actually need items, toiletries shipped into them. We're not sure how this is going to uh, play out here over the next week or two, and into the next months. They're rebuilding bridges, they're rebuilding roads, and we have communities that are shut off entirely. So keep
Yes.
us in mind and and support us in ways that we don't even know that we need that support right now. So thank you.
And from the Mankind Project USA perspective, the Asheville community has been a celebrated and recognized community. The whole Western Carolinas and the Greater Carolinas area has been an incredibly strong community. So for those of you out there just listening to the podcast who may not know, there is a strong community of families and warrior brothers in this area who are not only right now in need of support, but who have also mobilized in incredible ways to support others. I think you're hearing that from what Darryl is saying. Not only as logistical support, not only as these essential supports, but also There's a community of men out there with some skills around how to hold space for others, be present with others through a very difficult emotional time. So, Darryl, thank you for being at the heart of that community. And thank you for your giveaway, your continuing giveaway. And go to mkpusa.org/Helene-response. And please help out where you can. Darryl, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Boysen. I love you too, and thank you for this opportunity.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy. Hey, it's Boysen with another part of our conversation about Western North Carolina and Asheville. I'm here with Dr. Zachari Cahn. Dr. Zachari Cahn is a functional medicine doc who is in Asheville and also part of the Mankind Project community in Asheville. Welcome, Zachari.
Thank you.
So I think where I want to start is give us a picture of kind of what it was like, what happened, and what's happening now. That gives you a lot of leeway to illustrate for us.
Yeah, I mean, I none of us were prepared. It's a hurricane that, many hurricanes have come up through the Gulf and through Florida, and we expected some winds and rains, and we've had that happen a few times in the 13 or so years I've lived in Asheville. But I read one thing that said it was something like in 2 hours more rain dropped than any storm ever recorded. So in a year's time or something like that, I saw another one that said as much rain as Lake Tahoe holds. I mean, it was just a lot of water and a lot of wind. So Friday morning, the storm started and everybody lost power immediately. And there's so many stories in retrospect of what happened that morning. But as the storm passed and it went into the afternoon and we all kind of started peeking our heads out, my property happened to have, 12 huge grandfather trees fall, but none of them fell on my house or my cars, just by luck. But they all fell, literally that far from the windows and from the cars and from, and we went to try to leave to check on people and we couldn't. So we in this story is really, for everybody is saying similar things, a day to 3 days if you're on any type of private road to chainsaw your way out of there. And so me and one other guy who live up on the mountain I live on, we were trying to get out and we just went and got our chainsaws and spent a couple days opening the road for everybody and got down to the main road and it was power lines everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Power, the coiled, lines that are normally the live wires that you want to avoid at all costs were everywhere. Poles ripped in half, huge trees everywhere, every road. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. There's been one of the things that's happened here is, people going, is the media glorifying this, or, is this out of proportion? And the answer is no, it's worse. It's really been awful. And so we start, trying to check in on our friends, and none of us have cell phone access. There's no internet, there's no power. And so all through Saturday after the storm, nobody has anything. And we keep chainsawing our way further to the next big road.
Yeah.
And then you get out to the big road and it's closed. So you have to find your way and finally get out. And by Sunday, Publix, bless them and their staff, big company, whatever, but they were amazing. Had the only store in Asheville that had a generator. They immediately started opening, and they had, I guess, a Starlink and did Wi-Fi. So the reach out just started that Sunday, a couple days after the storm, and started checking in with friends, but they couldn't get back to me. And as I mentioned in the post, Lynn McFarland, who's a Mankind Project brother, was missing, and I had texted him on Sunday morning when I got to text and didn't hear from him. And we were all just keeping our fingers crossed. And then Facebook posts started showing up that he was last seen on the roof of his house with his dog as the waters were rising. And one of his neighbors actually saw the house swept away. And he was missing for a week. And they found him with his dog, apparently, deceased on Saturday, a week later. I'm just tender, man. We were all super tender and it's right there. So yeah, it's just part of the deal right now. So somewhere in the middle of that mayhem and everybody trying to get their bearings, this thing started happening where it's just amazing, the contradiction to the narrative of people will be awful when shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
People have been amazing. Everybody's helping everybody. Anybody who can help is helping people who are in need of help or asking for help. I've heard countless stories. I mean, stories from women giving birth on Thursday night and being stuck in their homes with their baby and the placenta still attached, and people being called by, I'm personally not one of those, I don't know what meaning or to make or not make of this, but there's been miracles where people have found women who just gave birth because they were called to go up this certain path that they've never come. I mean, just incredible stories. But and then we started getting organized, and so there are a lot of people getting organized, and organizations bringing in donations and distribution centers. And so that's where we've been, is just in the trenches. As several towns like Chimney Rock and Hot Springs were just demolished. Just literally, Chimney Rock is gone. Like there's a famous picture, if you Google Chimney Rock before and after, of the town before and the next day gone. It's not like, oh, they got hit. It's like the town's gone. So devastating. Biltmore Village in right in the heart of Asheville was underwater, and so every business there, every small business, is gone, just completely flooded. There's cars and trees. There's those huge town water tanks on the road, miles up the road. Just insane. Yeah. So that's the first part of your question. Is it was real. It was an awful and loss of life, and then 6 personal friends that I know lost their homes completely. Not like, oh, an insurance claim, but their homes are gone, roofs gone or flooded. So there's kind of some people who were down in water damage, flood, and there's other people who had trees, and some had both.
In looking at videos and talking to people, when I was at a gathering just this past weekend when we learned that Lynn McFarland had been found, and this is kind of testament to what the Mankind Project is like. Immediately, one of the men in the circle broke because he had stayed at Lynn's house. Lynn had taken him in and been with him and along the stream, and just kind of picturing what these places are like, looking at videos and before and after pictures. Like, imagine that beautiful home that's sitting next to a stream, and every once in a while you'd get some flood and the creek would rise 1.5 feet or something like that. And what I've heard is that some of these places, 23 feet of water coming down the hill, and that just took everything in its path.
Everything. Yeah. Lynn was so amazing. We did benefit concerts for Larry Hurley at Lynn's house. We raised like 10 or 15 grand for Larry and for medical expenses. And Lynn is just this big barrel chested, laughing, music loving, beautiful guy. And he was just wonderful, just wonderful. And it's hard to believe. He was so good. He was so good.
And I zoom out to, so that's one story and one person, and the final death toll is still unknown for what will have happened in Asheville. So you came in, and in the post you wrote about, don't believe how bad it is, believe how devastating this has been to community. And then also you said you can't go a block without there's a distribution center. You can't go a block without somebody's cooking food for free and making meals and asking people how they can help. And the FEMA workers and service workers working alongside citizens to clear roads and move things and deal with toxic sludge. And you've taken an active role in that, kind of on behalf with others in the Mankind Project. Talk about what you've created down there.
Yeah, everybody's helping. If you go on Facebook, if you connect with the Asheville community, people are just, here's where resources need to go, here's the resources, and then you start getting into resources that you don't think of, like adult depends and feminine hygiene stuff and kids' toys and diapers and formula and just the things that we all take for granted. And then when they're not there, it becomes a major issue for people to have some semblance of functional life. So there are several people in the Asheville community Mankind Project. Brent Skidmore, Grego Kilpatrick has been delivering food. He and I have gotten truckloads of raw rice and beans and delivered to one of the Latino communities who live in the South Side. Brought them a whole bunch of food. We've gotten generators, we've gotten chainsaws, and just kind of, I think what hit, Brent and Grego, and I know there are other guys doing it, I just haven't seen them, is in this, at some point, it dawned on me that I was in a position to organize people who wanted to help and people who needed help. And, it was like, didn't take long. It was Sunday morning or Monday morning. I woke up and it was like, I literally popped out of bed, and my wife popped out of bed at the same time. It was like 5:30 in the morning. And we're like, okay, time to get to it. And we just sat down at the kitchen table and started writing what communities we knew of that hadn't been heard from, who needed help, what we knew. And that's when I reached out to you. And that's when I reached out to my friend, Dr. Pedro Shojayi. And that's when I reached out to the chat list and started the fundraiser and, called Bank of America to set up a checking account. And it was on a Saturday. And he was like, we don't normally do this, but we're going to do this. He was like, you and me right now. It's just whoever that guy was on the other end of that phone. And so those kinds of stories of people just being in a position to help and choosing to are rampant right now. Just another, I love this one. So the general manager at Walmart, and Walmart is not the kind of company I think of normally, opened his employee bathrooms for free hot showers for anybody, and allocated 4 of his employees at Walmart to use the laundry room to wash and fold people's clothes. So you can go to Walmart right now, give them your dirty clothes because nobody has water, and they'll wash them and fold them and give them back to you like a laundry service for free. And so just anybody who can help will help. And like I wrote in that post earlier, the guy talking to the FEMA supervisor, and the FEMA supervisor was like, I've never seen a community come together like this. And it just makes me so proud to be part of this city, this thing that we're doing. And there's an Asheville City Council member named Sage Turner who's just been on fire right now. She has been so organizing and so helpful and all over, just doing her job, selflessly working her butt off. So, yeah.
Thank you. One of the things that I noticed about you setting up, when you set up the fundraiser, the GoFundMe, and I'm going to say mkpusa.org/Helene-response. You can find a direct link to the fundraiser there. You specifically, there's ideas of inequity, right? There's something around, who did you choose? You said, okay, I know that there are primarily African American and Latino communities in our area who are not getting the same kind of support. So speak to that around how this brings people who might not be thinking about our other neighbors out to thinking about our other neighbors.
Bigger conversation, right? I'm in an interracial marriage. I'm married to a Latino woman and identify as bisexual. So my immediate scope kind of goes outside of the normative thinking, maybe, and if I miss it, and I often do, my wife Tatiana will remind me. And so she immediately started going, how's Griselda? How's Eugenia? How are their families doing? These are immigrant families. Some of them, undocumented. Some of them, trying to survive working at McDonald's. One of the stories I heard, a friend of ours that we know personally was in Biltmore Village Friday morning, and she was the one who told all the workers, we have to get out of here. And she had to walk like 8 miles from McDonald's to her house because the trees were down and she couldn't drive her car to get back to her disabled daughter in that storm. These kinds of stories. So, she lives in a trailer park with a community of about 500 or 600 other Latinos, and they're not getting support. And we were asking them, hey, has anybody been back here? Is anybody checking the power? Do you guys have water? And it was like, no, they're just not getting that kind of support. No, I don't know. I know there's a lot there. There's a lot there, especially when you start talking about undocumented. Like, there's a lot of opinions, but for me, I know we're on a podcast here, and I want to be careful. Christ-like consciousness, not Christianity. Yes. Enlightened, like being good, being kind, treating everyone as equals, and showing up for people who are in need. I don't care about immigrant status. I care about are the people that I know and love, and people that I don't know that I love safe. And so we just started reaching out to those communities and asking how they're doing and what they needed. And what's interesting about that community in particular is we have a contact for that community, and they're impoverished people, and everything I bring to them, they don't keep. They give to people who are more impoverished. There's one single wide trailer that has 15 people living in it right now because 3 families came together. These are people who don't have insurance, who are working, low income jobs at McDonald's, and who are hanging on by a thread, and now they don't have work and they don't have a car and their home has a leak, and she insists she's okay. She wants me to redirect the money to her friend, and she gives me a contact for her friend a tree came to his house and he's homeless. And that's when it hit us. We want to help. We wanted to use this money to help displaced, uninsured, homeless people. Those are the people who seem like they needed the most help. Because, it's an interesting thing. I've never been in this position. I don't know if you have, to have almost $10,000 now and go, okay, where do we, and I'm hoping really that our goal was 50 originally, but to discern where that goes. And so the rubric we set up was that displaced, uninsured, homeless, and as soon as that intention was put out there. Providence stepped in. I met a guy at the store who works with homeless population that he's trying to serve, primarily African American homeless population, and he and I have been in touch. And so we've decided to split whatever funds we get into three separate funds. One for Cherokee, and we have a contact there for Native American folks. One for this Latino community we're working with, and one for Shiloh, which is the local African American community here. And and everybody is helping. There are it's just been profoundly impactfully beautiful how much everybody's helping.
So contribute to the fund, mkpusa.org/Helene-response. Contribute to the fund. As Zachary said, they're getting close to $10,000. They have a goal of $20,000, right? And you just heard the rubric. You just heard who it's going to and how it's being distributed. Thank you for that. So Zachary, 3 times in this conversation, at least, there's a providence, there's a strange synchronicity, and there's a Christ-like consciousness. What the hell? And there it is, right? When we get out of our own way somehow, or when something interrupts our late stage capitalist nightmare.
Yeah.
Other things show up.
Yeah. Mysticism, that which can't be explained, has always been challenging for me. I love explaining shit. And there are things that happen that are hard not to make meaning out of. And I noticed my head wanting to go there and make meaning. And I was just talking with another MKP brother this morning about that. He was asking me if I'm taking time to stop and breathe and enjoy my family. And I appreciated that. And it didn't feel like that I'm enjoying my family. I love my family. We're good. And it's time to work. Right now it's time to work and not make meaning. I think, part of what's going on in the social media threads right now is trauma awareness. We're all a bit in shock and a bit in PTSD. We've all many of us have lost someone in particular. Everyone here knows someone who lost their home. And nobody's in school. Nobody's businesses is open. All of our businesses have tanked. My business, I run a health center. I'm not seeing patients, so I'm not sure how I'm going to pay rent. And all of us are in that same, or mortgage. All of us are in that same boat, and worried about that and concerned about that, of course. And there are people who don't have a roof over their heads, and so we're it's a bit triage right now, and we're moving, I think, from triage in these next few weeks to, they're starting to call it. I saw someone in just the last couple of days, phase 2, and it's just it's a metaphor for, okay, we're moving out of this first week, as harsh as it sounds, where are the bodies?
Yes.
To okay, there's still hundreds and hundreds of people missing that may or may not be found, but there are a lot of people who have been found or who are alive who need help, and so that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. So let me lean into you as a functional medicine doc too, and in this frame of that, right? How do we step back to say, oh my God, my family's here. The people that I love and care for are around me. Here are the things that I have. Is there anything that you would say around this trauma awareness and simple things that we all can do? I think that, another hurricane just went through Florida.
Right.
What do we do to face trauma together? Hello, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a trauma survivor. I've actually recently been calling it a trauma thriver. I believe that my sexual abuse and the trauma that I had in my upbringing has direct correlative parts of my superpowers now. But it's taken decades and decades to arrive there. There is silver lining everywhere. But I think to be present, it was hard for my wife, and we're at this beach house right now that a friend gave us for a few days. And to leave felt hard. It was a hard choice. But we were worn and not healthy. And we made a decision for our family to come down here for 3 days to have water and power and do all the things, and wash our clothes and take a hot shower, and which is, just recharge so that we can go back up and dig back in. So I think, you asked about, as a functional med doc, if I put that hat on, what I know is the bridge between this experience as humans and pathophysiology is very real. The stories we tell ourselves in my relationship, my grace or not having grace with the content of my life affects my physical health and vice versa. So exercise, stretch, drink water, meditate. And I haven't been good at all of those things this last couple of days. So I'm preaching something that I haven't been doing, and my wife and I were just talking about that. So part of coming down here is right. We need to, when do you get out of oh my God, get the tree off the car to, okay, exercise now, I guess, and take a little bit of time every day to stretch and touch my toes and cook a good meal. And, there's that dance there between taking care of self and others. And I don't know where that line is. It's kind of sloppy and messy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna give you last word, and I want to say that there are Mankind Project community members all over the country, thinking, donating, praying, holding, all of our community members, and those we don't know and those we do know, in Western North Carolina. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. You're being held. Thank you.
Yeah. If you're watching this and you got this far into it, check out Asheville City Council Sage Turner. You can email her at sageturner@avlcouncil, COUNCIL.com. You can donate to her, to World Central Kitchen, has had a huge presence in Asheville. We have friends who run blackthornfarmandkitchen.com, and they're farmers and they want to donate their meat to people in need, but they need to sustain as well. So they're a good. Josh Blake is an MKP guy. He's setting up a music relief fund, and he can be viewed at I am AVL music. I am AVL at I am AVL. That's for the music relief fund he's doing. He's setting up a benefit concert. North Carolina Regional Livestock Center is giving away free livestock, animal related stuff to all the farmers who need it. And that's just a drop in the bucket. There are so many people doing amazing work. There's another woman named Eleanor Bramwell at Eleanor ELEANOR _ Bramwell BRAMWELL. That's her Instagram, and she's always been, since I've known her, just a big go-getter and helping. And I know there's so many more doing good work. I know Tupelo Honey, which is a kind of great restaurant down here, have a ton of volunteers and is just cooking food on a generator to feed people. There's kids with signs going free hot lunches out here, and so thank you for any support. Please donate to the Mankind Project Fund if you feel called to help these folks who are displaced and don't have a home or in really, really dire straits. These are the folks who really need it. Thank you, Boysen.
Zachary, thank you. It's good to be with you, brother, and we will be thinking about you.
Thank you.
I so enjoyed those conversations. So going back to Gabor Mate, who I spoke with Zachary about, I'm going to read another passage. This was a little bit longer, from The Myth of Normal, Gabor Mate's most recent book. Subtitle is Trauma, Illness, and Healing in a Toxic Culture. We are steeped in the normalized myth that we are, each of us, mere individuals striving to attain private goals. The more we define ourselves that way, the more estranged we become from vital aspects of who we are and what we need to be healthy. Among psychologists, there is wide-ranging consensus about what our core needs consist of. These have been variously listed as belonging, relatedness or connectedness, autonomy, a sense of control in one's life, mastery or competence, genuine self-esteem, not dependent on achievement, attainment, acquisition, or valuation by others, trust, a sense of having the personal and social resources needed to sustain one through life, and finally, purpose, meaning, and transcendence, knowing oneself as part of something larger than isolated self-centered concerns, whether that something is overtly spiritual or simply universal and humanistic, or, given our evolutionary origins, natural. None of this tells you anything you don't already know or intuit. You can check your own experience. What's it like when each of the above needs is met? What happens in your mind and body when it's lacking, denied, or withdrawn? So in these difficult times, even as we get up and do the things we need to do to take care of ourselves and the ones that we love and the people that we don't know, how are we meeting our needs? And is it possible that in getting up and taking that action to do those things we need to do today, that we can fulfill more of our innate human needs together? This is Boysen Hodgson. Thanks for listening.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. I have been your host, Brandon Clift, and I personally want to thank our guests for joining us today and imparting their wisdom from their experiences in this amazing journey called life. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.